The fans in South Carolina get up for this one, the 167th meeting. And it's inside Colonial Life Arena today. Last year, the Gamecocks defeated the Tigers. They've won 4 out of 6. Both of these teams with plenty of experience, and both head coaches might have their best teams in their times, both in Clemson and in Columbia.
Certainly for Brad Brownell right there, and Frank Martin talked to us today about his backcourt. A little bit young up front, but loves the group that he has. This is a big game, Kevin, for both these teams. You know, they'll both. I have them both as kind of bubble in that area right now. This is a big game.
Expecting over 16,000 fans in Columbia today. Gamecocks at 9-1, the Tigers at 8-2. And away we go. South Carolina in the white, Clemson, of course, in the orange. And remember, no Sindarius Thornwell for the 4th straight game for USC. Suspended for a violation of team rules. More on that later. But it's a Silva slam to start. Chris Silva.
Silva, one of the most athletic big guys in this SEC, and just a nice little feed over the top. No backside help from that Clemson man-to-man.
Dante Grantham gives it away. South Carolina on the break. This is Dozier. Shot miss, but there's an offensive foul, and it goes against South Carolina. And PJ, that's his first.
Turnover on the other end leads to that. Clemson, only 10 turnovers a game, one of the best in the ACC at not turning it over. Of course, South Carolina as aggressive a man-to-man as you'll see. They're going to pressure the ball. They're going to deny one pass away, try to take you out of your rhythm.
This is Jerron Blossom game. Into the corner, Grantham. And the senior might have taken some steps. 3-second violation is the call on Blossom game.
You can't simulate the pressure. You can't simulate how quickly they try to speed you up. The thing is, when you're playing against that South Carolina man, you can't speed up your mind. You've got to stay patient and poised.
Clemson scores a bunch, close to 80 a game. This one is still loose. Dozier fighting for it. That's a jump ball. He went up. And Cedi Jete was right there, got his right arm in the way of Dozier, and it's coming back the other way.
Kevin, neither of these teams great three-point shooting teams. I think this game's going to be won at the rim. Can you get to the foul line? Can you attack the basket, get some layups? Offensive rebounds. Both these teams good offensive rebounding teams.
Remember, South Carolina was the best offensive rebounding team in the country, in the SEC a year ago. Blossom game.
And there's the versatility. I mean, he can score it with the ball in his hands and then becomes a scorer off the O board. What a follow-up there by one of the ACC's best.
Mike Kotsar, the freshman from Estonia. Jete took a tumble, and then it's Kotsar with the offensive rebound. Dozier, his first try from downtown.
Shooting 63% from the field since Thornwell's been out. I mean, he has stepped up his game immensely on the offensive end.
Scores 14 or 15 a night.
Yes.
Shelton Mitchell, very good shooter. Kotsar slices off Blossom game, but recovers. A nice little touch.
It's going to be a tough matchup for Kotsar.
Dwayne Notice all the way. Rebound out, a Blossom game. Dozier with a great sleight of hand forces the turnover. And it's a great start to this rivalry game. A 1-point lead for South Carolina inside Colonial Life Arena. And Clemson with a turnover and Shelton Mitchell all the way.
Telling you, this game tonight, both these teams very good defensively, neither great shooting teams. This game is going to be won at the rim. Offensive boards, runouts like that, attacking the basket, and then that foul line becomes so important.
Chris Spatola, Kevin Fitzgerald with you tonight, and another giveaway. It's Avery Holmes spots up. Silva with the rebound on the backside, and you brought that up. What team does that favor then to try to attack the rim in this one?
Well, there, you'd love to see Holmes fill the lane. I mean, I know it's a shot he can make, but you got a 3-on-1. I think the versatility of Clemson. I mean, inside, we know Jerron Blossomgame, one of the best players in the ACC. Dante Grantham, a versatile player at that 3-4 position. But those guards for South Carolina, even without Thornwell, have been so productive in Thornwell's absence. Frank Martin today said that this is the best backcourt he's had, certainly with Thornwell in the lineup, since he's been at South Carolina.
If you have great guards, you can win. This
Yes,
team won 11 SEC games a year ago. Long three for Blossomgame. He's struggled a bit from downtown, 19%. He's usually excellent from beyond the arc. He was 45% a year ago. Offensive foul. That was Mackey pushing off his defender. Takes us to our first timeout. This is going to be a fun one. South Carolina with a 1-point edge at home.
You're watching ESPN's Holiday Hoops, presented by Zales.
One-point edge for South Carolina. All the fans of the Palmetto State get up for this one. With Chris Spatola, I'm Kevin Fitzgerald. So it's the 1-point edge for South Carolina. Now, they're ranked 22nd in the country. The fourth straight game, though, that Sindarius Thornwell, their senior leader, top scorer, has been out because of a suspension. What do you lose when he's not out there?
Well, the offense is very visual. You can see the numbers, putting up 18 a game, as talented a guard as there is in the SEC. But what's not as visual is his impact defensively on a team that hangs its hat on defense. He's their best perimeter defender, their best defender overall. So what do? Well, the two guards in their backcourt have stepped up. Dwayne Notice, we know about him. He's one of their veterans. And then P.J. Dozier, not only scoring 21 a game, he's shooting 63% from the field in Thornwell's absence. But again, the offense visual, but has stepped up at that point of attack in their defense, a much improved defender for them.
This team in general, one of the best in the country. Ken Palm ranks him as the third most efficient defense in the nation. It's a nice, solid drive inside by Marquise Reed. Gets hit at the rim.
Well, there's
fouls on Silva.
Yeah, there is as aggressive a man-to-man as you will see. They're going to pressure the basketball. They're going to deny one pass away. They want to take you out of your rhythm. And one example of that, Kevin, is teams, their opponents only average 6 assists a game. What that means is they are forcing individuals to beat them, not teams. They force you to break down, individuals to break down and have to take them off the bounce. Most teams average about 10, 12 assists a game. The good teams, 16 to 19. Only 6 assists a game for South Carolina's opponents.
Orlando Antigua would agree with everything you just said there. South Florida's head coach, his team, 5 assists. That's it against South Carolina over the weekend. And they turned it over 17 times.
Well, that's one of the disparities between these two teams. Clemson only turns it over 10 times a game. Part of that, they're a veteran group, and they got a lot of ball handlers in that lineup. But again, you cannot simulate the pressure and the aggressiveness of this South Carolina defense in practice. And there aren't a lot of teams that play that way anymore.
Dozier just about 70% at the line. That foul was on Sidi Jete. He's a valuable weapon down low for Brad Brownell, the head coach.
Yes, he is. Foul trouble inside will be interesting. Sidi Jete been so good. How about this guy? I mean, so much improved. Had 10 threes all last year, 16 coming into this game today, an improved shooter. So Frank Martin raved about how much better he is defensively.
He's tasked with guarding Gabe DeVoe.
That ball pressure.
Yeah. And that's a turnover. That's a timeout, rather, taken by the Tigers just before they got caught on the far end line there.
See the offensive difference for Clemson, Kevin. I mean, they've got a lot more shot makers, to keep it simple. A lot more shot makers. Now, the concern early for Brad Brownell is when you have more guys that can score, the challenge is convincing them to be willing participants defensively. I can relate to the offensive-minded guy who doesn't really apply yourself as much defensively, but it's part of the complaint that they've had at Clemson. We got to get some guys who can put the ball in the hole, and they've tried to maintain as good a defensive team as they have been. And that guy right there, Blossom Game, flirted with the NBA, decided to come back. A great decision for him personally, but then his presence obviously makes them one of those fringe NCAA tournament teams.
You see he's a scorer. Great benefit for college players now, able to test the NBA waters, go to the combine, and that's what a lot of folks said. We need you to become a better passer. Shelton Mitchell left that one short. It's going back the other way.
There's Elijah Thomas, our first look at him, his second game back from having to sit out, and gives them another body inside. It was really Sidi Jete for the first part of the season there, anchoring them inside. Thomas gives them a little more depth. Former top 50 recruit.
Pass too low for Hassani Gravit. Blossom Game had it poked away. And Reed is able to pounce on it, so Clemson can set up.
Look at the spacing Clemson's going to have. Part of this, they want their guards to catch and have the space to operate against this South Carolina pressure. Put it on the floor, get to the basket. That's not what Brad Brownell wants.
And Mitchell leaves it short. Rakim Felder into the game to run the point for South Carolina.
Play right into South Carolina's hands. You fire up those threes. Attack off the bounce. You've got the spacing to do it.
Kotsar's got a couple inches on Blossom Game. A good baseline pass. Hadim Gay is bumped just underneath the hoop. Christmas Day, some monster matchups around the NBA. 5 games starting with the Celtics and the Knicks at noon Eastern on ESPN. And, of course, see the rest, the finals rematch, the Warriors and the Cavs, the gift that keeps on giving.
It's one of my favorite days of the year. Open gifts and sit there and just watch NBA hoops, man.
Hopefully someone keeps bringing the turkey or the ham over while you're watching some great hoops.
Some libations as well. We won't get into that. How about Kotsar? I thought that Frank Martin was done with the Eastern Europeans after his tough love relationship with Kaichanis and Kavicius last year. Woo!
Contact at the rim. This is a game at the rim. I'm telling you, man. This is going off the bounce and then attacking with fearlessness. That's how you challenge both offensively and defensively. And if you go to the rim like that, you will get yourself to that foul line. Saw those numbers momentarily. Gabe DeVoe is such an impactful piece for Brad Brownell this year. We heard both coaches say it earlier today. The game plan is to get to the rim. And South Carolina, always a team that likes to attack under Frank Martin. One-point game early on. Clemson coming off a win on the road against Alabama on Sunday. Clemson has won the games they lost in the non-conference last year. Close games. Lost to Alabama a year ago. Lost to South Carolina last season. A rebound down to Thomas, and they push. Grantham for 3.
It's one of those shots, again, you'd like to see Grantham go off the bounce. It's one of those, I don't know about that shot, and then it goes in. But Grantham, I'm telling you, that two-headed monster of Grantham and Blossom Game, you don't get versatility with their size. Grantham about 6'8".
Now, those two guys you pointed out, junior and senior, this is a lot of experience for Brownell this year. Felder leaves it short. He hit a few triples against South Florida over the weekend. The run out pass to Avery Holmes. And the rebound to Mackey. Wraparound pass. Gay falls on it. Felder. Couple head fakes. Another offensive rebound. Shot clock is at 10, though.
Game like this, you buy yourself an extra possession on those old boards. Keep the fight alive.
Grab it. Lets it go. It didn't hit the rim. Shot clock violation.
Clemson, not a great perimeter shooting team, but Dante Grantham says, let me try one here. Bottom.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Zales. Celebrate your lasting love with gifts from Zales, the Diamond Store.
It's back, just a week and a half. College football playoffs. Alabama, Washington, Clemson, Ohio State. So the Tigers, that game is 7 p.m. Eastern on New Year's Eve. The PlayStation Fiesta Bowl. Deshaun Watson saying this week, regardless of the Heisman votes and how that turned out, I still think I'm the best quarterback in the country. Totally talented.
Yeah, he sure is. I mean, look, give me experience. Give me a guy who played in the national championship last year. And I've been saying on my radio show all year, it's from day one, give me, if I got a choice, Alabama or the field, give me Alabama. And, man, has it turned out that way.
Now, Brad Brownell says he tunes into that show, so you got to be careful.
He does. He was saying that.
Clemson's head coach in his 7th year.
A little 2-3 zone here from South Carolina, changing it up. Out of the timeout, giving a different look, trying to keep this veteran Clemson offense off balance. And look at that.
Almost got it up there to Blossom game. South Carolina did this to Michigan earlier in the year. That was their first top 25 win. They totally shut down the Wolverines. Dwayne Notice.
You can play your big guys lifted like that when they can make deliveries like that. Defense playing over the top. Nice back cut by Notice. Get him a layup. As you said, Kevin has really struggled with that perimeter shot.
It's under 20%. Here's Thomas. Blossom game is right there again, and he's hit. He's active down low.
Look at on the other end. Here's Chris Silva, your big guy. And the defense caught over the top, overplaying. Nice back cut. And again, nothing better for a shooter, which Dwayne Notice is, than to get a layup early in a game like this, shooting 37% on the year. Last year's 6th man of the year in the SEC, now in that starting lineup. And how about Silva? Look at his hands. He's got 2 catcher's mitts for hands. 2 satellite dishes for hands. Enormous.
That's his 2nd foul. He's just a sophomore, too. Comes over from Gabon, lived in Africa, stepped off the plane. His high school coach, he said, I go NBA. He's ready for the next level.
They had only been playing the game for 3 years. Another perimeter shot there for Dante Grantham. Silva had only been playing the game for 3 years before he got to South Carolina, so really just learning how to be a player.
That's 8 points for Grantham, by the way. That was the scouting report on Grantham. He may go for 25, and then the next day, 2. Kotsar. Blossom game, another rebound. Already with 4. And that's a turnover. South Carolina does an excellent job at turning teams over.
You just got to get a better angle if you're Shelton Mitchell. I mean, it's a good early look off of the break.
South Carolina 9-1, 2 top 25 wins. The lone loss to Seton Hall a week ago. That's a physical team. Frank Martin told us they just out-toughed us down low. So Notice trying to get going. Missed it from 15.
Nice help.
Grantham pass Mackey. Rebound to C.D. Keita. Lost it, and Grantham pokes it away. It's going to stay with South Carolina.
Both these teams are so well schooled on the defensive end. I mean, it just, their help, they're always connected. And they have such strong, weak sides that come over on those drives.
You know, it's ironic. Brad Brownell coach teams, they're always good defensively. This year, the story is they're a much better offensive team. South Carolina, you saw them a bunch a year ago. What's improved about their defense as a whole?
Well, their best rim protection, and Frank Martin was telling us, this is the best rim protection we've had since I've been here. When he first took the job, they were so small. He's been able to build their length and size up front, stuff you can't teach. Now, you got to teach them the game of basketball, and that's a process. They are really young. They went from being very old up front to now being extremely young.
Your two starters, Silva and Kotsar, in the paint, freshman and sophomore. Looks like another shove. And it's an offensive foul on Sidi Jete. That's his second. That's your nightmare situation. Jete with 2 fouls in the first half. 8:12 to play.
Well, and fortunately you have Elijah Thomas eligible now, right? I mean, they used to have to go much smaller. Now you can at least bring that other anchor in at that 5 position. Thomas may have to play a bulk of the rest of this first half.
Thomas started at Texas A&M, mid-year transfer. He was behind a bunch of great bigs. The Aggies are a really tall team down low. Mackey down and out. Thomas is running.
No offensive boards for either team. There you go, right on the cue. I mean, we asked both coaches today, and this is when you know you got a good thing going. You asked both coaches, what concerns you about the other team? And they both said their ability to offensive rebound.
There's a whistle and a push. It's on Blossom game. 3-point edge. The Tigers on the road tonight. Three-point game inside Colonial Life Arena. South Carolina has the early edge. Battle for the Bluegrass. It goes to the Cardinals. That was a fun one earlier tonight. So, Chris, we've got 6 remaining unbeaten teams. And, hey, Bob Huggins, Frank Martin, a disciple of the Huggy Bear. 800th win, now at 801 and counting. Those two coached together at Cincinnati, Martin and Huggins.
He should be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, I'm not going to get on my soapbox. I did that last week during a game. Bob Huggins should be in the Hall of Fame. And the list came out today, and he wasn't on it, and I don't understand it. I think sometimes the committee we put too much on. Have you won a championship? Bob Huggins, his contributions to the game, over 800 wins. He is a Hall of Famer.
Dozier a little strong. Here comes Clemson.
Nice pass.
And Blossom game ducks underneath Keita that time. Foul on the freshman from Philadelphia.
One of the best ways to not have to play against Clemson's South Carolina's half-court defense is get out and run, and Clemson has done that. They've got 7 points on the break to start this game, and a nice look ahead there, and a veteran play by Blossom game, knowing that the shot blockers were coming behind him. Nice steal.
That's Mackey. He's the senior. He knows the importance and the urgency of a game like this. He's from Columbia.
Well, and he listened in the scouting report. They went over that under out of bounds this morning in the shoot around, and he was right on it.
Clemson's turned it over 6 times already.
It's not a good shot.
That one from the hip there. Keita scooped it. Dozier.
That is. He has been on a mission. Sindarius Thornwell out of the lineup. P.J. Dozier has been outstanding.
Thomas with a nice answer on this end. Well, 9 points for Dozier already. Martin said he didn't have to ask him to step up and be the vocal guy. He took that on his own after Thornwell was suspended on December 4th.
Well, the stat sheet is a limited view of his impact. I mean, he gets it. You know, part of it is his dad was a coach. Obviously he's got lineage here at South Carolina. The kid gets it, and he's going to be a terrific, terrific guard in this league.
There's Blossom game with the steal. Thomas with back-to-back buckets. Now he has 6. It's a 4-point edge for Clemson.
He is talented, and you know, I called a few games last year at Texas A&M, and he didn't get a lot of burn, but found a good spot, got out of the state of Texas, and he'll get more and more comfortable in this Clemson lineup.
For Clemson, he's one of a handful that joined as transfers this year, 2016-2017 team. Shelton Mitchell is another one. That's 4 in the orange.
Well, welcome to this day in college basketball. I mean, you're going to find 4 or 5 on every team.
Mitchell to the rim, and that one was pinned against the backboard. They say a goaltend. Keita tipped that one after it connected with the window.
Yeah. And this is what's going to be there against the pressure, and that ball did hit the backboard. That's a good call. And that's what you got to do if you're Clemson. You know, spread them out, drive the ball, and attack those rim protectors. Make them make a good play at the basket.
Well, Mitchell is really good at 18, his last time out, career high. Notice, they're trying to get him going. Had a great second half against South Florida after a bit of a shooting lull. Holmes one-on-one. DeVoe tried to spin it off the glass. He's at the line for 2.
Clemson spent the bulk of their shoot-around today setting up opportunities to drive the basketball. And we mentioned that number at the start. South Carolina's opponents only average 6 assists a game, and that's the reason why. They're going to deny and take you out of what you want to run as a team. They force you to be individuals, but you got to take that opportunity. You got to go hard to the basket like DeVoe did there.
That's one of the main reasons why Seton Hall beat South Carolina.
Absolutely.
They got to the rim, got to the free throw line, and they out-rebounded them by 14 in that game. The lone loss for SC. Kotsar with a nice little fling that time.
Nice move by Kotsar. Took his time.
He's just a freshman. Offensive foul. That's on Mitchell. That's a few times that our crew of Tony Green, Ted Valentine, Joe Lindsay have called those push-offs with the arm.
And Dwayne Notice didn't like it. Took exception. Some words exchanged between them, and that's an offensive foul. You can't do that. You either have the angle or you don't, but you can't create the angle with the off arm. And that's a good call. And they're going to look at it. I mean, I don't think it's anything excessive. I think it's just in the making his move, and they're not going to call anything.
Both teams had just huddled up, you could see. So our officiating crew.
Regular basketball play. There you go. Our guy Joe Lindsay comes over. Just a regular basketball play. He's our guy because we don't really care who he calls things for. I don't know how either the coaches feel about Joe Lindsay. He's a good man, though.
Gonna warm that arm up. You can flag him down whenever you need something. Kotsar just hit one the last trip down with that hook. This time misfires.
You can see Clemson wants to probe early. They want to try to get some early offense.
Grantham hit one earlier from 3. They beat Bama on Sunday, getting out to an early lead. And the Tide really couldn't get any closer in the second half.
Nice delivery.
That's Grantham.
There he is. I mean, again, he's 6'8". He's incredibly versatile. He can run. He actually played point guard in high school, so you know he can handle it. Sometimes he falls in love with that three-point shot. Fill a lane, get a layup, and a nice pass from Mitchell.
Dozier's right there for the stick back. He already has 13. Clemson, though, Chris, with the edge, a 9-0 fast break point advantage. That extends now.
Yeah. Well, they want to get out and they want to push. And if you're South Carolina, they love to attack that offensive glass, but you got to ensure your defensive balance is there.
Avery Holmes rises. Thomas had it. South Carolina with less than 3 to go. This is what we expect, a close game.
And a physical first half.
Jarrell Holloman left open. Mitchell all the way in. He got caught underneath. Dozier up to grab it in transition. Looks for that contact, and he spins it in anyway. We're tied up. Timeout, Clemson. Tied up inside Colonial Life Arena. 6 remaining unbeatens. You got Villanova and UCLA at the top. Boy, do they look really, really good, those two teams at the top.
They do. Well, look, Villanova, they're the defending champs. They have the best player in the country in Josh Hart, and they are unusually old in this day and age in college basketball. And then UCLA's got the freshman who I think has made the greatest impact on winning in Lonzo Ball. He's created a passing culture there. His presence has allowed Bryce Alford to move to his natural position at the 2, and they can really score.
They get up and down the court.
They get up and down. They run. I mean, they are Isaac Hamilton. They can score, and it all starts with Lonzo Ball. Baylor has great length and size up front. Gonzaga, I think it's the most athletic, the deepest team that Mark Hughes had there. And Creighton, I'll tell you, Marcus Foster has done a great job, a guy that Frank Martin is familiar with from Kansas State. I mean, he has done a terrific job sort of resurrecting his career. Maurice Watson does a great job running the point for them. Another good offense. A lot of offense out there this year, Kevin. A lot of offense in the good way.
Well, Duke as well. And Duke won earlier today. You heard Matt Schick say it a moment ago. They're going to talk about it in studio. Grayson Allen, another tripping incident. He went bonkers on the bench today as well.
Yeah, he's got some problems, and it is inexcusable. It's weak-minded. It's selfish for him to act like that. I would assume the ACC will take some action. Surprised Coach K put him back in the game in the second half, quite frankly. People compare it to J.J. Redick and Christian Laettner. Those guys, they thrived off of whatever was out there about them. Grayson Allen hasn't done that. So right now, he's no Christian Laettner and J.J. Redick, quite frankly.
It's Luke Kennard who's scoring 20 a night. By the way, that was the 8th turnover, that shot clock violation for Clemson on the other end. And you can probably head on Twitter right now. You can catch a clip of the Allen trip. This one is really the most pronounced, too, of all three. A couple occasions last year. Dozier floats it up. Thomas had it tipped out of his hands. It was last touched by South Carolina. Seen some rebounds, but then a lot of knockaways and tips. With both of these teams so strong down low, you've got to be strong with the basketball.
You got to be strong running your stuff. I mean, they both these teams so good at taking you out of what you want to do, and South Carolina goes back to the zone. Nice pass.
And Thomas got hit by Dozier. It was a sneaky find in the paint. Thomas has been open there a few times in the middle.
Well, the zone wants you to beat it over the top, and that's why Frank Martin's going to the zone there. Marquise Reed just attacks on that baseline, and Thomas does a nice job playing off. Some good minutes from him in this first half, working himself back into shape after sitting out the first half of the year.
Already with 7.
Yeah. He's talented, I'm telling you. I mean, he wasn't a top 50 recruit for nothing. He's got good size, a good feel. Not a great athlete, more of a below-the-rim type big guy, but he's a good player and a good pickup for Brad Brownell.
Transferred after just one semester at Texas A&M. That's a tough decision to wrestle with for players, isn't it?
It sure is. I mean, now look, there were some talented bigs, Tyler Davis being one of them, and they were loaded at that position last year was Texas A&M. But Brad Brownell made a good point. He said, part of the reason he comes to Clemson is to get out of the state of Texas. Just get out of that vibe, that whole atmosphere. Come to the East Coast. He had a connection through a teammate of Thomas's, and Brad Brownell there's no better teacher of the game in college basketball. A good fit for Elijah Thomas.
That foul is on Gabe DeVoe. That's the junior from Shelby, North Carolina. Great talent. He's come out of Shelby over the years. So 1-1 for South Carolina. Both teams in the bonus, just 43.4 left in the first. Notice he's the Canadian. A little less than 70% from the line, and misfires there.
Clemson doesn't foul a lot, only the third free throw of that half for South Carolina.
Notice all over Mitchell, and he gives it up to Blossom Game. Nice turn.
Yeah. So in control, right? I mean, he just gets to that spot in the middle of the paint, and he's not sped up. Great control, and goes back to that right hand.
Frank Martin going to use that timeout before the break. It's really early, and there's
just in control, right? I mean, good poise, takes it in there with that left, and uses that body. What an experienced player. He's a first-team All-ACC guy. So versatile is Deron Blossom Game.
It is early, but ACC Player of the Year. I mean, he's got to be in that conversation.
Yeah. He hasn't shot it well, and you made that point early, only shooting 19% from three. But to win in the ACC, you have to have a guy like Deron Blossom Game, right? I mean, like the Dukes and the Carolinas, and they got a lot of those guys. But you have to have a guy like that, a guy late in the clock you can go to, a guy late in a tight game that you can give the ball to and say, go get us a bucket. You have to have a guy like that to win big in the ACC. And so good for him to come back. He flirted with that NBA, a great decision to come back, and helps grow this veteran presence here at Clemson.
See the clock reset to 15.1. Joe Lindsay just made mention a moment ago to us that it ran about a second and a half after that timeout was called by Frank Martin, so 15.1. And just to finish up on Blossom Game, sure ACC Player of the Year would be great, but he's a projected first rounder.
Oh, yeah.
Grab it back after the ankle injury, missed the South Florida game, gives it up. Kotsar on the drive, and Blossom Game gets up to tip that one. Might have been after the horn from Holmes. Regardless, a miss. And the Tigers, though, have a 4-point edge at the break. So Matt Schick and Tim Welsh have you covered in the studio. Fellas, take it away.
You're watching ESPN's Holiday Hoops, presented by Zales.
4-point lead for South Carolina. It's going to be 65 in Columbia tomorrow. That's danger for Frosty. But a fun one in the first half with Chris Spatola, Kevin Fitzgerald. So Tigers out to the early edge. It's been a little bit of a balanced scoring attack, but they wouldn't have the lead without Dante Grantham. Good first half.
Yeah, well, and P.J. Dozier for South Carolina. Both those guys not as frosty as that guy in the bleachers. Dozier has 13 points. He's also their leading rebounder. Has been their only offensive punch, attacking the basket dares. Hit some perimeter shots as well. He came out ready to play. They're going to need to find a second, maybe third scorer. Much more balance on Clemson's side. Blossom Game in the first half, but this guy hit some perimeter shots early that got them going. So those two bookends, Grantham and Blossom Game here, getting out on the break. Clemson so good in that first half in the open floor and in that paint. See 17 points of their 29 coming inside that painted area. That is a recipe for success against this South Carolina defense.
Clemson has never won a road non-conference game against a ranked team, ever. That's program history. And they have the 4-point edge. But there's still 19 minutes, 48 seconds remaining in this one. And South Carolina gets it. Shot a little over 40% in the first half. Mike Kotsar just 2 of 8 now, but good follow. And Dwayne Otis is trying to get going. A third look drops. Dozier.
He's so good at that little baby floater, is Dozier. It's such a tough shot to master. Nice D.
Grantham tried to force it, and there's Chris Silva. He does have 2 fouls. Kotsar finds his spot underneath.
He made the defensive play on the one end, great anticipation, and then he runs the floor and makes a great play underneath. A lot of poise. Good start here for South Carolina. Look at this. Look
Another
at this.
steal. No bucket, but notice is at the line.
Mike Kotsar on both ends. Look at the play there, just the poke away, and then he runs the floor. He's off and running, and when you know Dozier's going to look for you, you'll run even harder. And nice little touch underneath, good awareness to where he was at. How about Kotsar, the first recruit that Frank Martin has ever had that he took sight unseen. He had a buddy who was coached a club team in Estonia, said, you need to go check this kid out. He was going to school here in America. Frank sent Perry Clark, one of his assistants. Clark went and saw him, called back to Frank, said, this kid's good. We need to take him. First kid that Frank Martin's ever taken without seeing him beforehand.
Tomas Enoch was the coach that Martin ran into 3 years before hearing about.
Well,
big man.
I was joking with Frank today because he had a tough love relationship. I think much more love than he would let on with the 2 Eastern Europeans he had last year, Mindaugas Kaičinis and Hetkavicius. But he takes another one there, and a good future for Kotsar.
Justin Mackey is open. And Kotsar gives his team a second chance. Dozier! Offensive foul.
Put the children to bed, folks, because this is vicious. Right down the lane into your living room and on your head. P.J. Dozier announcing his presence with authority.
The roof was about to blow off this place a second ago. Undefeated this season, South Carolina at home, and that's a whistle. And it's on Holmes. You want to talk about turning defense into offense. The 6th turnover today for Shelton Mitchell. Had 6 coming into this one, and Clemson's been giving it away most of this one.
Yeah, well, again, you don't see pressure like South Carolina's every day.
Good response. Holmes, and it's Silva. Right back into DeVoe's hands. And the Shelby native sticks it back. 1-point game. Dozier is feeling it right now.
Okay.
Silva.
Wow. Showing a little dance step. Got some athletes in this one, folks.
Brad Brownell is asking for spacing, and Blossom Game gets a little isolation, plus the foul.
And that's why. The spacing creates the drives. And that's what Clemson wants. They worked on it all shoot around this morning. It allows this opportunity. And how about Jerron Blossom Game with the response? The graduate player, the first team all ACC player. Nice touch there off the backboard.
And he can make such a great impact even outside of just the scoring. His coach said the reason why he's taking a step forward this year, he's got a willingness to the rest of his teammates involved. So Dozier met at the rim there, and here we go. Holmes loses it, and Silva gathers. 12th team turnover. Notice. No. Kotsar. That whistle goes against Clemson.
When you're struggling to score, you have to find a way to create more possessions in the game. You do it really in two ways. You turn teams over or you crash the offensive glass. The start of this half, South Carolina has done a great job doing that. 4 offensive boards. Kotsar has been outstanding on that glass to start this half.
Notice lost it, and he's whistled for the foul.
He's really struggling, man.
Might be a soft one, but a foul nonetheless. DeVoe draws the contact. And you've talked a lot about it. It's Dozier or what now for South Carolina offensively?
Or guys inside, again, offensive rebound. I mean, notice that's not what he does, trying to create off the bounce, but he's really struggling with his shot, so he's trying to make an impact in other ways.
4 triples against South Florida's second half of that game. Had 14 of his 15 in the second period. You thought that was going to spark him, but maybe not. And Blossom game is off the mark.
And look who grabs the board. P.J. Dozier is everywhere.
5th board today. And he'll rip down about 5 a night. Holmes looked like he yanked him, and that is a foul on Clemson. South Carolina has it down 2 when we come back.
He's doing everything, is P.J. Dozier. Announcing his presence at the rim. P.J., put him to bed, baby.
Welcome back to the SEC on ESPN inside Colonial Life Arena today. Chris Patola, Kevin Fitzgerald with you. So remember that tomorrow, college football bowl season continues. So many great games. Famous Idaho Potato Bowl. Idaho and Colorado State, so it's almost like a home game for the Vandals. That's 7 p.m. Eastern, ESPN. You can catch it on the ESPN app and watch ESPN. Now, Chris, no players in this game have announced that they'll be sitting out, but that's kind of the trend now.
It is.
The last couple days around college football.
I respect the decision of those guys. You see P.J. Dozier, how effective he has been. 21 in the last 4 games. Those games that Thornwell has been out. He's shooting 63% from the field. I mean, it is amazing, the growth. I did a bunch of their games last year, and he was a good player, and you could see the talent. And he's got the size for that position. But the maturity, the poise, the extension of his game. And there's the guy right next to him who allowed that growth to take place, right? I mean, he's, Sindarius Thornwell could very easily feel insecure and be jealous of P.J. Dozier, and it's been the exact opposite of that.
It's a double dribble. Goes back to Clemson. Nice tie. Where'd you guys get your ties? You guys are shopping at the same spot, I think.
Yeah, early Christmas. Yeah, look at that. Looking good. And that is not an easy knot right there. I was on the internet today trying to figure out how to tie a Windsor.
YouTube search. Clemson has turned it over 12 times, but they have the 2-point edge. Grantham, an 8 in the first half. That's going to go back to South Carolina. And how about this one? Right now, for Clemson, it's -3 turnover margin. They entered this game with the 6th best in the nation, +6. That's a 9 turnover swing, although the deficit is shrinking now.
Well, there's certain teams where you're going to turn the ball over. I mean, West Virginia is one of those teams, and South Carolina has historically been one of those teams under Frank Martin where you're going to have a higher number of turnovers. The question is, can South Carolina convert off of those opportunities?
Just 7 for the Gamecocks. That's it. Points off the turnover.
And now with Dozier on the bench, who do you go to for offense?
Yeah, look at this lineup for South Carolina now. Gay, Silva, Notice, Mackey, and Felder. And Notice has that one blocked by Jete. So this isn't the most offensively inclined unit, you could say, for the Gamecocks. Nice backdoor cut. DeVoe mishandled it, but he is still fouled. That's a great look.
Well, the pressure release to a team that's going to deny passing lanes is the backdoor cut. And what a delivery from Grantham.
So DeVoe is at the line. Very good game for Grantham so far. He's almost into double figures. The junior from West Virginia.
I said earlier he was a point guard in high school. And so at that size, and then he had a growth spurt at 6'8", 215. The ability to handle the ball, he has steadily gotten better, more efficient as a scorer in his time at Clemson.
Now you could also funnel this one under the category of things not going well for Clemson. Gabe DeVoe just about at 80% from the line this year. He's 1 for 6 today.
They're one of the best free throw shooting teams in the country. And they don't foul.
As a team, a little less than 77%. That is excellent.
Clock's been
and the clock
for
was not moving. That was a long possession, a slow 8 seconds.
Oh, and Brad Brownell, thank goodness he has his jacket off, the way he was maneuvering to get the ref's attention.
We just saw Ted Valentine there give Frank Martin a pat on the arm and say, hey, can't give them all to you. And a 2-point lead for the Tigers. They'll sort out the clock. Going well for Clemson. Gabe DeVoe
stops on 22. We know that.
The line is 1 for 6 today.
They both stopped, and in the meantime, you can't see him in your picture, but Brad Brownell is trying to alert the officials.
That was about 10 seconds that ran off, roughly.
You know, Brad Brownell told us a good story today about, I asked him, are you and Dabo Swinney close? And he said, we are. We're really close. He said, I give my athletic director a lot of credit because Dabo did not win when he first became the head football coach at Clemson. And our athletic director publicly came out and said, that's my guy. I'm going down with that guy, and we're going to live or die with him as our head football coach. And obviously that paid off. And Brad was telling us today how much he respected that from his athletic director. And I hope they stay with this guy because there is no better teacher of the game of basketball than he is. Now he's got an infusion of talent, which they needed.
That's a great coaching tandem, those two. Ted Valentine just came over. They're sorting out the clock like we figured. It had froze. They're trying to just determine how much time is going to be struck in from both the shot and game clock.
See, now this is what I don't get. What takes so long? I mean, you counted it on your fingers, had 10 seconds in a matter of 5 seconds.
I had my chance to tell Ted there. Taking a break for a moment in this basketball game to tell you about basketball on Christmas Day. Great NBA slate. You've got the LA matchup late at 10:30. The Celtics and Knicks. Of course, everyone's watching at 2:30. Golden State, Cleveland's 3-1 deficit erased by LeBron and company. You've got the Spurs and Chicago Bulls. Tim Duncan was just honored earlier this week at his Spurs game.
How good was that? I tell you, I am so amazed by what James Harden and Russell Westbrook have done this year in the league. I don't think we can fully put into context what this guy is doing. It hasn't been done since Nate Archibald. Or Oscar Robertson, rather. It's unbelievable what this guy is doing. He is a fast twitch super freak. The amount that he has to handle the ball, all he has to do, it's unbelievable.
Oh, it's his team now.
No doubt about that.
That is his team. So it looks like they've got the stopwatch out once again.
This is unbelievable. This is unbelievable. And that's a veteran crew. So, I mean, they're obviously doing what they need to do. But I just don't get this. Like, if we're in the schoolyard and we have a discrepancy, like you did, run it off, count it on your fingers. All right, it's about 10 seconds. Let's add 10 seconds and go.
An iPhone stopwatch.
Here we go. One of those. This is the Kevin Fitzgerald method. Go ahead, Kevin. Set it off here.
You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 10.
Maybe we're counting too high. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe we were losing track. This is crazy.
That was the slowest 8 seconds. You can have possessions quite like that.
This is how my math classes used to go. A huddle of 3 to figure out.
I mean, if Princeton had that much time back in the day to run that offense, forget it.
This is how I try to do homework with my son at home. I get my wife involved, my 5-year-old daughter. We need everybody on deck. Dad can't figure this one out.
So it looks like 13:54 is what it may be set to. There goes the stopwatch. The players they're craning their necks. They're trying to get in on the action a bit.
They're going to have to re-warm up, for crying out loud.
Well, luckily it's not
What's
an
taking
actual
so long over there?
malfunction.
1 second. All that for 1 second. Teddy Valentine. Teddy ball game coming over, Tonas.
Well,
1 second.
Luckily, it's not the actual clock that was malfunctioning. Remember the ACC tournament back in March? There was that one game.
Yep, absolutely.
It was Syracuse and Pittsburgh. I don't know if Clemson was in the building to witness it, but the first 5 minutes of that game took about 35 minutes because of clock malfunctions.
Can't let anything go to the basket. Side out of bounds.
You see Frank Martin. He wants to get going. And that one's short, so a shot clock violation. All that for a shot clock violation.
And, we're joking around. In all seriousness, that's my problem with replay. Like, I'm okay with getting the call right. But if we're going to go to the monitor for over 5 minutes to figure out a clock issue, then we got a problem with the replay system.
Frank would have been better off just saying, we decline it, we're punting.
We defer.
Let's set up our defense. Marquise Reed is trying to get going. Nothing today. Outside of one bucket, the Robert Morris transfer. Kotsar is wide open, ran the floor.
The feed comes from Dozier, but Kotsar knows if he just runs rim to rim, he's going to get it. And Clemson's got to figure that out. You got to know that he is running to be a scorer.
Tied up. Blossom game. He has not had too many clean looks at all today at the rim. Notice the senior pass poked away. Jeté racing to chase it down. It's going to stay here. Someone like Dwayne Notice, who's in a little bit of a rut today, shooting just 1 of 8. Can you relate to what he's going through, what it takes to bust out of something like this?
When your identity is a shooter, it puts a lot of pressure, man. I can a little bit relate. Like, when that's what you are out there to do is make perimeter shots, and it's not going down, there becomes more and more pressure that calcifies on each shot you take.
That's a whistle on Jeté, his third.
And that's what he's out there to do. And the other thing is he's a starter now. Like last year, he's a 6-man. There's not as much pressure. Now you're a starter. Sindarius Thornwell's not playing. Dozier's playing great. And you're not shooting it well. And, again, all that calcifies, and you got to be above it. You got to be mentally tough and get this thing going.
Talking to Derek Scott, play-by-play voice of the Gamecocks. He talked about what an impact someone like Sindarius Thornwell has on Dwayne Notice to set him up for plenty of his shots.
That's a good point.
He watches these guys every game. So Dozier, 3-ball looked good a moment ago. Kotsar, he's got some space stretching it from 15. That may be another whistle on the Tigers. It's on Gabe DeVoe. That's his second. It's a 1-1. That's the 17th foul. And Chris, we've got 12:07 to play in this one.
It's unusual for Clemson because, again, they don't foul. Like they have made 52 more free throws than their opponents have attempted. 52 more makes than their opponents have attempted. But for the offensive glass, it's all hands on deck for Clemson. And DeVoe just trying to keep Silva off the glass. And in order to do it, he ends up fouling him.
Silva's gotten better at the foul line, close to 70% this season.
He's got all the physical tools. Look at the body, long arms, hands like catcher's mitts. He's got all the physical tools, learning to play the game.
And Silva was battle-tested from his days at Roselle Catholic in New Jersey. Went up against Karl Anthony Towns a few times. Silva with 6, so the Tigers try to tie or retake the lead. Mitchell with the float. 1 and done.
Mitchell's had a struggle today. He was so good against Alabama. Just hasn't been there today.
Just 2 of 7. It was a career-high 18 he had against the Tide. Hassani Gravett. And Mitchell might have bumped Gay, and he's whistled for the foul underneath. More free throws for South Carolina when we come back. Up 2.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Zales. Celebrate your lasting love with gifts from Zales, the Diamond Store.
New Year's Eve, it's Washington, Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State. You've got the first 2 college football playoff winners back in the Final Four. Bama last year, Ohio State the previous season. So 2-point deficit, Tigers down 2. And the football Tigers, they've leaned on Deshaun Watson all season. What does this team, who do they have to lean on the rest of the way to make a little comeback?
Shelton Mitchell's been the catalyst for them. You mentioned last game against Alabama had a career-high 18, but he sets the table for these other guys. 4 fouls, 6 turnovers in this game. He had 6 all season to this point. The lefty has struggled here tonight against the South Carolina pressure, and without that guy setting the table, look at the bank's open there. Without that guy setting the table, it has stymied Clemson's offense in this second half.
That's Hadim Gay with his first point tonight. He's 5 of 5 from the line. Why change it? You got to bank it. What is it about South Carolina's defense, by the way, 3rd in the nation in terms of defensive efficiency, that wears a player like Mitchell down? What do they do?
Well, the ball pressure occupies your mind. You're more concerned about the guy guarding you than actually running your offense. And then on top of that, they're denying that first entry pass. Nice drive there. Clemson's got to get back to doing that. They've settled a little bit here in the last 3 minutes for perimeter jump shots, and that's the path of least resistance. This takes aggression. This takes effort, but it produces results. And Marquise Reed, nice drive there, takes the contact, and you're going to get some free throws out of it.
Reed got stamped by Kotsar. That's his second foul. Chris Silva coming back in, and so is Dwayne Notice.
Frank Martin called his rotation of big guys a potluck. Whoever's playing well will play, and he has rotated them liberally here tonight.
He's used 10. This is exactly what we want, this Palmetto State rivalry. Really only a handful of times where both programs have gotten off to excellent starts in this series. From 1953 to 71, they were ACC rivals, but now they meet in the non-conference. This is a big one. Dozier flying in the air that time. And the foul. A couple players chasing after the loose ball. Elijah Thomas for Clemson whistled.
They called the second one. I actually thought Dozier got fouled on the drive, and then they called the foul. And look, South Carolina is attacking the offensive glass, and in order to stop that, Clemson has resorted to fouling them on that. You've got to gather the ball if you're Clemson, and you can get them down back. I mean, they had success in the first half, making South Carolina's aggressiveness on that glass pay. Nice Silver over the back.
That's his third.
Coach Martin thought there was a goaltend here. And I thought that was off the rim. But he wanted Elijah Thomas called for a goaltending there before the foul.
Only players in foul trouble, Silva with 3, and then Mitchell for Clemson with 4. Funnels out to DeVoe, another shot short. Reed amongst the big guys.
We talked about South Carolina's offensive rebound. Both these teams. I mean, Clemson averages 13 offensive rebounds a game. South Carolina 12. There's another one.
Silva.
I mean, when you're struggling to score, you've got to manufacture points in different ways, off of turnovers or off of those offensive rebounds. We said at the start, this was going to be a battle at the rim here tonight.
28 of the 42 for South Carolina in the paint. Open look, he got a hit. Grantham, no. Loose ball foul against Clemson. It was Mackey who pounced on that one. 2 triples for Grantham in the first half. Nice work down low, Chris.
Just got to put a body on him. I mean, he's a good athlete. He's big. And they're starting to feel it inside on that offensive glass. And you mentioned the fouls. I mean, this, again, manufacturing points, turnovers, offensive boards, and at that foul line.
It's funny, we were curious what type of game we were going to get. South Carolina plays in a lot of low-scoring games. Clemson has scored over 85 times this year, but that's not happening today.
Well, and part of that's skewed because of who you play in the non-conference, right? I mean, a lot of teams are scoring a lot of points. Nice roll there. Not quite as aesthetically pleasing as the bank shot from the foul line. But, and look, that's not to say that Clemson can't score. I mean, they are a much better, they are the best offensive team Brownell has had in his time. But you play that South Carolina defense, they're third in the country in efficiency. They're going to get after you.
That ball is still live. Kotsar, another rip down on the offensive end. Seven offensive rebounds for the freshman from Estonia. That's wonderful. 7 to shoot for Dozier. Funky moves and can't get the roll.
What a scrum.
Here's Jete. Gets it up ahead. Grantham. Good head fake for Reed. That's a long 2.
He is wired to score, is Reed. Comes off their bench, gives them instant offense.
And that's 8 for him. Close to his season average, about 9.5 a game. South Carolina has beaten Clemson 4 of the last 6 in this series. Silva got hacked and count the bucket. Sindarius Thornwell appreciates that one.
Chris Silva is a man playing because Sidi Jete is not weak, and Silva plays through the contact. What a surge he has put on in the last 5 minutes of this contest. Going to be a terrific player. He has a chance to be a pro. As we said, He only played the game for 3 years before he got here. So beyond, refining his skill set, he's got to learn how to play the game of basketball.
You got to appreciate his enthusiasm, too.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
He gets a nice ovation.
He deserves the break there. Look at this.
Three-point edge ties for the largest lead for South Carolina. Reed can't find the range, and there's a foul underneath. That time DeVoe got bumped. Chris, if you're Clemson, when do you have to say to Jerron Blossom game, we need some buckets?
Well, they got to find. He's got to catch it first. South Carolina. One of the ways you defend a great scorer, one of the first ways, is deny him the basketball. Don't let him catch it. Clemson's got to find a spot where you can get him the ball first. There it is.
And there it is. And he's hit.
Yeah.
That's a great look from DeVoe.
The other thing he's done this year, and Brad Brownell brought this up earlier, you can't evaluate how effective Blossom game has been based on his numbers. Okay, he's averaging 17 on the year, but they have other scorers. So his numbers are going to go down. Here he just finds the middle of the zone, a good delivery. And as good scorers do, gets himself to the foul line. And as you mentioned earlier, Kevin, a good free throw shooting team on the season have not made their free throws tonight.
Brownell is 7th year as head coach. Trying to get this Clemson team back to where it was. They made the tournament 5 straight years, 06 to 2011. You coached against a lot of those tough Clemson teams.
They were good, man. In your face, they pressed.
Mackey.
It's interesting here, Silva and Dozier on the bench for South Carolina. If you're Clemson, you've got to try to make a run here before the TV timeout. Frank Martin using that TV timeout to buy more time.
And that foul on Hadim Gay takes us to that timeout. 2-point game. Palmetto State rivalry. Circle this New Year's Six game on your calendar. Friday, December 30th, Michigan and Florida State. I want to talk about just beasts on the football field. Jabril Peppers, Dalvin Cook going at it. That is going to be an extraordinary matchup. You can catch it on ESPN or on the ESPN app. Watch ESPN as well. Physical, that sums up this game today. Carolina with a 2-point edge over Clemson. This is the 167th meeting between these two teams. But in the second half, Chris, really what's been the key has been who has won the battle on the offensive glass.
It has both teams, concerted effort to get there. 16 second chance points for South Carolina, 10 for Clemson. Both teams have more offensive rebounds in this second half than they did in the first, and both came in. We asked both coaches, what concerns you about your opponent, and they both said their ability to offensive rebound.
Two coaches have gotten to know one another very, very well over the last handful of years. Frank Martin arrived in Columbia in 2012. Brad Brownell in 2010 up in Clemson. You see the records. 2 good starts for both teams, but this is a big RPI game for both. Thomas meets Silva at the rim. It's going to stay with South Carolina, though.
What a play by Thomas. I mean, that's help defense. That is the definition of help defense. You got one-on-one in the post, and then look at Thomas come over and times the block, helps out Blossom game.
Thomas, the transfer from Texas A&M, at 4 to shoot. Notice he's got his eyes on the clock. That one way off. And this is going to be ruled a shot clock violation. It was tipped out of bounds what seemed just before. you heard the horn, but it might have been off of South Carolina, so Clemson ball anyway.
Don't wave your arms in the air, Kevin. We'll have another 5-minute look at the videotape.
Grantham tried to force it in. Dozier gets it up ahead. Ball tipped around. DeVoe made an excellent recovery
yes, he
there.
did, man. I tell you what, there are winning plays in games like this. And we'll eventually see who wins. But I tell you what, they're going to look back on this tape. Look at this play by DeVoe. I mean, it just comes out of nowhere. That is a winning play late in a game. An extra effort play from Gabe DeVoe. Nicely done.
He's kind of just riding Kotsar's tailwind there, and then he spun around him.
I say there are always plays when you look back at the tape, and you're looking at your team, especially if you won, and it's plays like that. We always focus on the last minute of a game. It's plays like that where you say, you know what, that was a great saving play of a bucket.
Dozier sneaks his way open on the baseline.
Rebound.
That's Grantham.
Rebounding in traffic is an art.
And the slam! It's Teron Blossom game, but he's teed up for hanging on the rim.
That's not right.
Dante Grantham is pleading his case with Joe Lindsay
for his teammate Blossom game. I don't like that call. Look, I wasn't a dunker, so I'm not going to try to interpret momentum or anything like that. But, I mean, there's traffic. Look at that. What do you expect him to do? He can't let go immediately. That's not right. Now, you may say that he was doing a little bit of a pull-up, which, let him play. Come on, man.
Free throws and the ball. So with that technical, it's the third personal on Blossom game.
I mean, Joe Lindsay, and we said earlier, he's our guy, and he's a veteran official. I think he took exception to the pull-up, and you see it here. But the momentum looks like it's taking him in one direction, and you got to let guys like that come down.
You let go early. Blossom game lands on his
balls.
back.
He doesn't know if there's somebody under him.
That was a quick whistle. But it ties this one up. This is the 10th tie of the game. We've also had 11 lead changes, a travel. That's the 13th Carolina turnover. That's their season average. We've got 6:09 to play. See the bonuses. Free throws are going to be big the rest of the way.
Dante Grantham handling the point guard duties.
Shelton Mitchell with 4 fouls.
Yep.
So Vanderbilt transfer, the starter, on the bench. Gabe DeVoe started for him a bit, but he was injured earlier in the year. They'll need him to step up. Gets the offensive rebound, but they lost it.
Nice play.
Reed swipes it away.
Winning plays. Marquise Reed, Gabe DeVoe, I should say. I mean, just two great plays.
Dozier on the other end. He has 20 tonight. 5th straight 20-point game for the sophomore. Here's Blossom game. And again, just can't find the stroke from downtown.
He's got to get going to the basket. Put him on the block or drive the basketball. I mean, this time of game, these shots are too big. Can't waste them on a three like that.
And the ironic part is he was 45% from downtown a year ago, just has struggled.
Well, and he was open. So people say, well, he's open. You know what? Time, score, momentum tells you what a good shot is. And right now, drive the ball.
Like Silva. And he is bumped before the shot. 4:50 to go in the game.
You know, their Blossom game almost sets a screen on Reed, his teammate. And Dozier takes effect, and if you're Thomas, you got to come over and make a play. Either lay a foul or try to make a block there. But how good has Dozier been? And really been the sole consistent offense for the South Carolina team.
Well, our colleague Dana O'Neill, great article on Dozier and the family, his father and uncle. Yeah. The Twin Towers, Perry and Terry, they played here Perry, PJ's father, used to sign him up for rec leagues and travel leagues where guys were 2 years his senior.
Yeah. His sister played here. I mean, he gets it. He's been around the game. He understands. And when you play for Frank Martin, you have to want to be coached. And that young man wants to be coached, and he wants to be coached hard.
Terry played in the NBA, and the way Dozier has played, he's headed there in the next couple years. Screen at the top. This is Mitchell who's back in. He carried the basketball, going back to South Carolina.
That's his 7th turnover.
That's remarkable. That's a testament to what the Gamecocks do defensively.
When we're talking about buying possessions, you're just giving them away.
Silva bumped by Thomas.
Game like this, anytime you don't get a shot at your basket, you're just wasting a possession.
Free throw line so important. Clemson has fouled Chris 20 times today. That is a season high. But remember that the Poinsettia Bowl going on tonight, BYU, Wyoming. After that one, Sports Center at night. SVP will be hanging with you. Highlights and then all the news. Not only college hoops, but all around the country. SVP has that for you. And there's a foul after that missed free throw. So it's Silva's 4th.
It's a big foul. And Frank Martin has tried to shuffle him in and out. Foul trouble's been a problem for Silva all year. He's fouled out of 2 of their 10 games. That's part of the growth, trying to learn how to play without fouling.
Kind of see him there. He's talking to himself. He's visibly frustrated. So that was something that stood out to me that Frank Martin said. Our young guys are asking for more responsibility with Sindarius Thornwell, the guy in the suit there, suspended and not out there. Silva just the sophomore.
And another missed free throw from Clemson.
Kent State, Oregon State right after us, but a one-possession game as we're approaching our final timeout of the ball game. Sidi Keita keeps it alive. Dozier all the way to the rim, twisting in. Largest lead. Nice shot. That's Marquise Reed.
That is a big shot. What a response. Sits the crowd down.
Clemson has never beaten a ranked non-conference team on the road. Good sleight of hand, Thomas. And he's fouled that time by Keita.
He has been the man all night, always on the spot. Seems to find the ball in his hands. Look at the adjustment in the air. P.J. Dozier, 2-point game.
Just over a year ago, these two teams met. It was up in Greenville, and a sizable South Carolina advantage. They had a great contingent. Once Sindarius Thornwell hammered that one down, Gamecocks went on a 24-1 run. Clemson tried to chip away a little bit, but Chris, it was the Gamecocks. They won last year. They won 4 out of 6.
Well, and it was Thornwell in that game. It's been P.J. Dozier here tonight in the absence of Thornwell. This is a big game, folks. You may think it's too early to talk resume, but these teams, I think, are both going to be bubble teams. And when you get down to that March conversation, this game for Clemson on the road against a potential bubble team, and for South Carolina, a Clemson team that's going to be competing in that ACC, this becomes an enormous game. and you are anonymous until you come up big in a big game, and that young man has been outstanding tonight.
If I'm a Gamecocks fan, I'd be circling January 21st in the calendar when Dozier gets to go up against De'Aaron Fox on the road against Kentucky. That's going to be a heck of a point guard matchup. You don't want his head to grow to that size, though, before that matchup.
That's never good.
And it hasn't. It's one off his career high. He has 22. Clemson led by as many as 4 in the first. They're down. Thomas, great spin, but it's Dozier who's right there. He tipped it. Ball's going back to the Gamecocks.
I like the call out of the timeout. Go to the block. Try to get yourself a layup. But the defense responds. Again, good offense, but better defense. Look at the help from P.J. Dozier. Look, I'm going to keep saying his name if he keeps making plays like that.
A reminder, though, sophomore. He's a sophomore. Helps when you're 6'6" as well.
He's a competitor, man. Again, his impact is not always seen just in the stat sheet.
Kotsar with another big bucket. He's into double figures. Wide open, Thomas with the jam.
Nice job playing behind the defense there by Thomas. Was patient.
To go back to your point with 2:35 left, it's been 5 years since Clemson has hit the tournament. 12 since South Carolina has been to the big dance. Dozier rises short. That one got punched out of bounds.
In this situation, your guards have to come in to rebound. And Shelton and Coates are limping off there. That's a tough loss. But a nice job on that last possession by Shelton Mitchell to keep the ball alive. Your guards have to get in there and rebound.
He tumbled on this end of the floor defensively before taking a spill on that side.
Nice play.
Blossom game.
Got to finish that.
That's Gay on the floor. But it goes to Clemson, 2:05 left.
Nice pass.
Thomas, his shot blocked. And there's a whistle.
Frank Martin, the quieter he is, I think the angrier he is. He was incredulous on that. Look at his feed. The window is so small here. Nice delivery. The help comes late. And that's a good block, folks. That is a good block on the help.
Chris Silva has fouled out now 2 of his last 3 games. And the fans don't like it.
Well, Teddy V must have called it. Teddy Valentine, the official, must have called it with the body on Silva, because I assumed he called it on the block there by Gravitt. Clemson
11 of 20 from the line with Silva not in. This is a great chance for them to try to retake a lead. 1 point game, less than 2.
And here comes Jeté back in. He will certainly enhance their ability to defensive rebound and protect that basket.
Free throws important the rest of the way. Both teams in the double bonus. 1:50 to go.
Nice help there by Jeté. Look at this.
Gay wasn't expecting it, but Dozier gets the ricochet.
How many times tonight has he found the ball in his hands? And it's not luck. That's great players making big-time plays.
And the tip in for Blossom Game. He's always in the right spot.
And there's another guy. Gets down to winning time. The good players, the great players step up. 2 consecutive possessions. The 2 best players in this game. Big buckets.
Double-double for Blossom Game. Timeout, South Carolina. Come back. Great finish on the other side. South Carolina up. Tonight, 5 straight 20-point games, Chris. 24 today.
Yeah, what an exchange we just had before we went to break there. Dozier here creates the opportunity with the drive, but he's seemingly found the ball in his hands for buckets like that all night. And then this a play not called for Jerron Blossom game. But look at how active he is. Fights 2 South Carolina defenders for that offensive board, and that's what great players do. You just find ways. The play may not be called for you, but you find windows where you can make an impact, especially late. And both those guys there on those 2 exchanges, nice job.
Second double-double of the season for Blossom game. Again, you just pointed out a few minutes ago, this game is so important. When we get to Selection Sunday in March, Clemson, they fell short, tail end of ACC play a year ago, missed the tournament. South Carolina 24-8 before Selection Sunday, left out of the field, went to the NIT. Chris Silva has just fouled out, so the Tigers have a bit of advantage down low.
Well, this is going to Dozier. There's no question about that. Got to get him the ball.
Lets it go. Off balance, Mitchell the board. And less than a minute to go. Reed fouled by Gay. 2 free throws for Marquise Reed. He is Clemson's best free throw shooter.
Oh, nice drive there. I like the penetration. And then, he does a little bit of a flop there. You got to protect the shooter, and that's the rule of thumb.
By the way, right now on ESPN News, Kent State, Oregon State. And that will be back on ESPNU following the conclusion of this one. Tie game with 52.5 seconds left. Reed is 88% from the line. Clemson back up by 1.
In a zone, a 2-3 zone from Clemson.
You like it?
Well, it changes up. You stand them up, you make them have to think and talk before they get into their stuff, force a perimeter shot.
Mackey, no. Notice with the offensive board.
That's the problem. Tough to rebound out of it.
Gay keeps it alive. Clemson on it with less than 25. Double bonus, remember, for the Tigers. Mackey intentionally fouls Avery Holmes.
How about the call from Brad Brownell? What it does is it takes that 2-3 zone, takes the isolation opportunity for Dozier out of the equation. It stands South Carolina up, forces them to take a perimeter shot. You get 2 of them there. A gutsy call by Brownell.
South Carolina led by 4 with 4:07 left, and now Clemson with 3 straight at the line to take a 2-point edge, maybe 3. Holmes gets the bounce, 3-point game.
A timeout, and he's going to set up. And here's the confusion now. Frank Martin's got to draw up 2 different plays. You got to draw up a play against man, and then you got to tell your guys what you want if Clemson comes out in a 2-3 zone. And, I mentioned the only issue with the 2-3 zone is if you do get those perimeter shots, the zone is tough to rebound out of. And South Carolina did get an O board on that last possession. But you force 2 perimeter shots, and you take the isolation of P.J. Dozier out of the equation.
And by doing that, Clemson just went on a 6-0 run.
Absolutely. I mean, and they've made their free throws late, right? It's just talked about all night. They are 75% free throw shooting team on the season. Have not shot them well here tonight, but have in the last couple minutes.
Well, and South Carolina, not much to hang its hat on from beyond the arc second half.
Well, they've stymied this and been able to score through P.J. Dozier or through offensive rebounding. Clemson coming out. They're going to pick up here a little bit, force Gravett to have to handle the ball in the full court. Get that clock running and then back it up.
Tigers have never beaten a ranked team in the non-conference on the road. This could be the first in program history. Dozier bumped. That's on Sidi Chite. That's his 5th. He takes a seat along with Chris Silva. He did that a few moments ago. That's 2 free throws for South Carolina.
And P.J. Dozier 70% on the season. And they've run that looping action for Dozier all night to get him on that left elbow where he can drive it to the open side with his right hand. There's Jete, just a little too aggressive.
South Carolina's lone loss to Seton Hall. They had a shot to win it at the buzzer. Now it was a half-court heave, but similar circumstances. Down with just a few seconds left. Clemson looking for its first ranked win of the season.
And you have to assume if you're Clemson a miss. You cannot give up an offensive board here. And Dozier 70% from the line on the season.
Three of 4 from the stripe today. He has 25. That's a career high.
Clemson has one timeout. Yep, there he goes. And he's going to set this up. Obviously, South Carolina going to press. The inbounder will be able to run the baseline, which is a big help going against that pressure. And you want to get into one of those guards. I mean, again, you throw a dart and you're going to find a guy on Clemson who shoots the ball from the foul line as long as Elijah Thomas doesn't end up with the ball.
Clemson, on the other hand, they won a game similar to this one against Nebraska, the ACC Big Ten Challenge, won 60-58. What's the safe bet here? You're the Tigers.
Well, you got to get it in. You have no timeouts, so you got to get the ball in. And again, you've got enough free throw shooters. That's the advantage that Clemson has. So you can run a screen there at the foul line and either hit the guy coming off or hit the shape-up guy, get it in their hands, and assume they're going to foul. And you got to be strong at the ball. Ball security is so important in these moments. Can't assume that they're going to foul you right away. You know, a lot of teams will put on a trap, try to get a steal. You got to be secure with that ball. But the most important thing is getting it inbounds. And this, people don't understand who is the inbounder is always one of the most important questions, because that is, in this moment, that is the most important guy. Who is inbounding the basketball?
What a fun one.
It has, brother. This has been good.
It could be like this in SEC play the rest of the year for us. I think we'll be set.
And there's Shelton Mitchell, their point guard, going to inbound it.
Clemson has turned it over 15 times today. Whistle on notice. Only 0.6 of a second come off the clock.
And that's the guy you wanted to get it to. There are a lot of them, but Avery Holmes, 85% on the year.
Tony Green, one of our officials, he's over at the scorers table. See him rewinding the tape there, trying to make sure they were right on the money there. I don't think there's 1/10 of a second to go either way.
Don't get me started again, Kevin.
So Clemson was down 4 with 4 minutes left. What was impressive about their fight to retake a lead? And now in the driver's seat,
well, they had free throws. Yeah, they had to get some stops. Started driving the ball a little bit more. Blossom Game got the big tip in. I'm telling you, the winning plays. You go back to the DeVoe play where he limited the bucket, and then Marquise Reed made a nice play on a steal. So, those are the types of plays. We all come down to, a missed free throw or a made shot at the end. Coaches, when they look back at the tape, those are the ones that they earmark and say, that was a winning play. That impacted our ability to win this game.
9.2. That's the time that will remain on the clock. That timeout taken by Frank Martin. So no timeouts left for South Carolina. Brad Brennell has 1. And both teams on each whistle, each foul, will shoot 2. Both in the double bonus. 1 point advantage for the Tigers. And you've got Avery Holmes, an 85% free throw shooter, at the stripe when the teams break from the huddle. Clemson's they're in a tough one today. They start ACC play really, really difficult schedule in the month of January.
You know, and if Holmes hits both, you assume Clemson will foul at some point with the 3-point differential.
It was 19 years ago when Clemson last beat a ranked South Carolina team. This would be impressive on the road. Clock starts.
Attack the basket. Attack it.
Dozier with 25. 2 seconds. Grantham, he saves it, and Clemson knocks off South Carolina, a ranked Gamecocks team.
What a game.
Well, for Chris Pizzola and our entire crew, I'm Kevin Fitzgerald. Thanks for joining us in Columbia. Good night from Colonial Life Arena.